question for you would just be,
Mhm.
do you have any questions for me before we begin?
Uh, no. No, I think I'm good to
Oh,
start.
okay. So then I'll just be a minute or so while I'm looking for something to talk about.
Perfect.
And then, sorry, one last question. Is this a
Mhm.
scrim environment right now, or this is this from
This is
comp?
this is comp. I
This is comp.
picked
Okay.
I picked yeah, I picked
Mhm.
comp VODs specifically.
Okay. Sounds good.
Hey! Oh, barrier activating.
So just tiny things like here, just questioning the necessity of maybe needing to place the bubble in the first place, just because one single
Hey!
ball on top of us, and not really anybody else in particular can see us or shoot at us, right? Might not require bubble when ball is inside the bubble anyway. So
Gotcha.
this bubble doesn't therefore really do a ton, and then we might want
Barrier
it for a
activating.
little bit in the future here, because we might want to just engage here with a bubble, right? So just maybe a little bit unnecessary there. Yeah, so right now we're just kind of chilling around. Right now we're engaging. So we had that little bit of a pause there, where we didn't really do anything in particular. So we want to make sure we're not taking random pauses. So right now, as of the moment, which we might get in depth on this if needed, but as of the moment right now, what we're looking to do is just do some soft dives, do some like poking, where we're just kind of trying to look for something to do. So here, for example, if during this time where we're just kind of sitting here, it might have been a good idea to maybe leap over to the other high ground and just Tesla Hanzo, since he's like right there, right? Like kind of like from this angle, maybe as well. Maybe we could have dropped from high ground and just tried to go on the people in the bottom left. But instead, we just kind of chill for a little bit and chill. And then when we do engage, it's after we're like already half HP. So we're now
Right.
engaging. Instead of engaging when we had health, now we're engaging when we're half, right? Which might be the time in which we might want to be backing up to get heals. Right,
This
but
will
we bubble
protect
and we're
us.
good. We back up. But then we re-engage.
Put it out.
Little risk. Yeah, so there we probably shouldn't
This
re-engage.
will
So
protect us.
at the moment, right, this is just a little bit of aggression management of, again, we'll get in depth if this continues to come back up, or if it like, big thing comes up. But for the moment, we just state the fact that you get aggressive when you have resources and when you have opportunities, and you play passive when you do not. So here we had our health, and we had, I guess we didn't have bubble, right? So that was what we were waiting on, but we had health and we didn't engage, and then we engage and we don't have health, right? Which is when we don't want to engage, and then we come in, we use bubble,
This
we
will
back up,
protect us.
right? Which is fine because we don't have health, right? And now we're out of jump, out of bubble, and have health, which means that we don't have any resources at all, and we also don't have any opportunities to engage in anything. And now instead of backing up, we re-engage back in the fight, right? So
Well,
here we probably don't want to be re-engaging because we don't have any resources. So this is, preferably here, we probably would have just backed up to high ground, get healed up real quick, wait for some cooldowns to come back, and then we'd re-engage. And then this is what causes us to die here. We also try to re-peek it again, like from cover when we were low health still, and then we die, right? So just that's pretty much it. We get res.
This is not your time. Rocket barrel incoming.
Let's see. So we go in this area. Probably say pick a different target here. Oh, excuse me. Sorry, I just drank some water and got some stuck in my throat.
no worries.
Yeah, so here we were going on the Zarya. Probably say just going right side would be much better, because we have Ana, who's half HP over here, and Hanzo, who's over here. Zarya being, maybe a target who we're not going to be able to like solo kill very easily. So just picking out better targets probably would be a better idea here. So that's, again, I'll just mention that for the moment, and then if we
Sure.
see it repeat, then we might go into target priority a little bit. But
Okay.
that's
I'm
just,
back.
yeah, there we go on. Sorry, which we win the fight anyways.
I've reached the.
I am on fire. Escorting the payload.
How long is this gonna take? May as well have tires on this thing. Pardon me.
Behind you. Dein Schutzengel ist da.
Re-engaging.
Valkyrie is ready.
Okay, nice engagement. Here again, noting that we're kind of just sitting around. So this gets, why don't we talk about a little bit about actions per minute as of the moment. So actions per minute is essentially making sure we're doing things and not sitting around. We're going to start to get a little bit more in depth since this is the second time I've seen it. Actions per minute is just being as efficient with our time as possible, right? So essentially, if you were to compare a grandmaster player to a bronze player, right, a grandmaster player with mistakes excluded is going to be efficient with pretty much every single second of their time, right? Whereas a bronze player might be in the fight shooting and going pew pew shoot shoot, and then all of a sudden take a random 10-second pause, right, in the middle of the fight. And then they'll go, oh yeah, I'm in the fight, and then they'll go shoot shoot pew pew, and then they'll take another 5-second pause because they're looking at the scenery, right? So here within our gameplay, we already saw a pause in the last fight, and then here in this fight, we see we dive back up to the high ground here, and there's nobody there, right? Which is fine. That's not something we have control over. But then we just kind of sit outside of the fight now when possibly we could be doing things. So noting, for example, the fact that like Ana is still very much within like contestable territory here, right? Their whole team's backing up, right? So we have with us, right? Monkey or Ball and Doom are backing full up, right? Everyone else is attempting to back up. We have Widowmaker, Zarya, Monkey. So it's essentially a 5v3 as of the moment, right? If we're to just do a quick calculation there, right? So we're kind of sitting around when we might want to be getting on top of these three guys who are trying to back up and securing kills. It wouldn't really be that dangerous for you because all we have to do is just maybe walk off the edge and then we still have a leap to get away, right? So here we just kind of sit around and sit around and sit around as, you know, as far as doing the stuff, right?
Right.
When we might want to be going in and doing things.
Barrier activated. Ow! Excuse me for dropping in.
Greetings. Let's keep this moving.
Yeah, right now we're just keeping high ground control.
Enemy contact.
Barrier up.
Melodies administered.
Alright, so here, just we'll talk about a couple tiny things. So first off, if we're trying to destroy all the mines, right, and we're trying to save Ana at the same time too, maybe, right, probably the easiest way to do this would be to make sure when we're mining, that we're mining in the center of all the mine, or sorry, when we're bubbling in the center of all the mines, not on the very edge, which here we bubble on the very edge of it, so maybe like leaping towards the center might, or like kind of leaping up towards the center might be a better idea, whereas here we bubble and it's just kind of on the edge of all the fighting, or all of the mines. Then secondly, we focusing ball for a little bit there, we turn around, we hear Hanzo. We miss the jump because we leap up into the wall. So there was a little bit of a mess up. Then we leap in, we leap past him. Okay. Okay, we recover a little bit. Alright, let's talk a little bit on target priority, because we've come up across a couple instances where target priority has come into play. So, target priority, right, you can get a little bit in depth on it, or I guess let's go in depth on it, because there have been a couple instances where that's come up. But essentially, the first basic step to target priority is don't shoot at tanks, right? Tanks are the things that are the hardest to kill. They have 2 to 3 times the health of other characters. They have armor, they have shields, they have tanking abilities, and they're very difficult to kill, right? Now, on top of this, supports output healing and DPS output damage, which are statistical outputs, but tanks, they even though they're a very important role, their job is to create space, which is not a statistical output, and therefore we want to focus the other characters. So that, for example, comes into what we were talking about before with us focusing Zarya instead of going for the Ana on first point. But then we've also seen a couple of other instances where like we haven't really been going for other characters. Now, on top of that, you also have you can kind of look at their team comp and go, okay, well, what are the other harder characters to kill, right? Because you can kind of come up with a priority list in your head of who are the things you want to kill first, second, third type of deal, right? So here, if we were to take a look at their team comp, right, who's harder to kill, Doomfist or Hanzo?
I would say Doomfist would be harder to kill of those two.
Yep. by a whole lot, right?
Yeah.
Who's harder to kill, a Valking Mercy or an Ana?
Valking Mercy.
Okay, so let's relook at this Primal real quick, right?
Right.
And we come out of Primal and we're looking at Valking Mercy and
Right.
try to go up on the Valking Mercy when Ana's right here, right?
Right.
So target priority takes into account, who are we trying to look at, and we want to think through in our heads who are the things we want to look at. So if you were to come up with a target priority list, right, and kind of other team come, keeping in mind that if a couple of them are really close together, you can
Mhm.
just kind of pair them up. Who would you say would be kind of the order of who we're focusing on their team?
Um, Anna and Hanzo are pretty high priority for me as
Mhm.
Monkey specifically.
Yep.
Zarya without personal would be kind of secondary. Um, a non-Valking Mercy is another high priority. And then Doom and Ball are pretty low on that list just based on movement abilities, I would
Yeah.
assume, and
So
survivabilities.
So, looking at that list, right, I'd probably say it goes probably Hanzo would be the easiest to kill
Right.
because Hanzo does not have, Ana has sleep and nade, both of which can keep her alive a bit longer against you, whereas Hanzo barely has anything. He has a tiny little leap and that's it, right? So,
Right.
Hanzo would probably say would be the easiest thing for you to kill, followed very, very closely by Ana, right? They're very close together. Thirdly, I would probably say comes Mercy, without Valk, excluding the Valk, that changes it up a little bit. But
Right.
outside of Valk, she has, Zarya has 2 times the health of Mercy and a bubble for
Mhm.
herself, right? So that's just going to automatically. And then also on top of that, you also have to keep in mind that Zarya can be pocketed by 2 supports, whereas Mercy can only be pocketed by 1 support, right? So therefore, Zarya is going to be like 3 times harder to kill than Mercy is in most instances, as long as you're approaching it correctly. If Mercy flies away from you, then that changes it up, but you have to outplay that by saving your leap and stuff like that, and knowing when to engage on her. So, but she would probably be the number 3. Now, number 4, I would probably say. Is around tied for Zarya and Doomfist, right? Because
Right.
Doomfist does have less health than Zarya and not a bubble, but he also has a lot more mobility and he gets shields from doing damage. So he does become very difficult to kill as well. So those two are just kind of those are the situational ones, right? We'd go for them if we have the opportunity. And then Ball, he is the one who like is the lowest priority because he's insanely hard to kill, right?
Yeah.
Now, in term, that's not to say when it comes to all those hard to kill guys, it's not to say that you can't shoot at them ever, right? Because we
Right.
look at them when they're low or out of position, or they're the only thing we can look at, right? But when we have the opportunity to look at other people, we want to look at other people, right? Like in the first fight when we had the opportunity to go on Ana and we went on Zarya, or this fight when we're going on Valking Mercy when there's again an Ana right next to us, right?
Right.
Or I haven't even seen us, and then there's like only been on Hanzo like once so far, and Ana I don't even think we've been on yet. Right? Like we haven't really we've never really dove Ana yet, right? So
Right.
we just haven't been on the right targets, right?
I appear to have lost control.
Taking damage.
Okay. Want to just be careful with our bubbles. So far bubbles, seen a couple bubbles that have gotten maybe could have been used better, like this one for example, right? Like when we're using it on the Zarya when Zarya's not looking at us or shooting at us, and it's not like this is going to really stop anybody else from doing anything to help Zarya, right? So this bubble really just gets largely wasted just because Zarya walks out of it. And, we,
Right.
we could have just maybe held on to it for a better situation. Like maybe here if Ana needs to try to get away from a full HP Zarya, this might be helpful for Ana to try to keep her alive, maybe in this instance if you see she's low.
I am unyielding. Heroes never die.
They say, payload in motion stays in motion. Now that's teamwork.
Not sure if you're familiar with the tech, but melee as you're landing on Monkey, as it
Mm.
animation cancels essentially into your landing, and you do the damage from both of your landing and your melee, which does a big burst of health, which
Right.
potentially there when ball is low can end up killing him there, right? If you had
That's
melee there,
teamwork.
he's no, that wouldn't have killed him, but it still gets an extra chunk of
No
damage,
one can hide
Gotcha.
from
and
my
it's
sight.
particularly handy for bursting somebody down, bursting
The
their HP
payload
down.
has reached
Though I
the
would
checkpoint.
say,
Barrier up.
just in general, meleeing is not something you want to do when when it's not going to be the finishing blow, because
Okay.
it's not going to be any more consistent in damage. And like it's not going to do you more damage, it's just a higher burst of damage. So that means that they're going down more health, but you're not damaging them any faster. So that means that when you're finishing somebody's health off, you want the higher burst of damage so that they can't get away or run or heal or whatever, right? It secures the kill. But when you're trying to melee Tracer when that's not going to kill her, that's not really an effective way to go about it.
Okay.
Right, like
The
that, you try
payload
to go
has
for 2
reached
melees
the
when she wasn't
checkpoint.
low health, so probably save the melees for when she's 1 HP. Or,
You
you know,
need
within meleeable health.
enemy fire at will. Get in there.
Barrier activated.
Okay. Again, melee on the land, but then still melee when he's not low. Okay, I like that we're setting up on high ground, that's a good idea.
Right there.
Barrier up.
Okay, again, a bubble that doesn't really particularly do anything, it just kind of sits there. So, probably want to make sure that's doing a bit more.
I'm being attacked.
Need healing.
Okay, good request of healing. If not, maybe like a little bit slow, because we requested it a couple seconds after we actually needed it.
Barrier activated.
Okay, nice kill.
Operating at maximum efficiency.
Okay, when he's stuck in that corner, add in more leaps. I think in general on Monkey, just like add in a couple extra leaps while you're primaling, because just remember that it does extra damage too. So here, if he's pinned into the corner, you leaping is going to do nothing more than helping you kill him faster and moving on to the next target,
Clearing the area.
essentially. Alright, so far, pretty consistent attack, right? Here, right? He ends up just getting pocketed by Mercy, right? Who's going to be, you know, easier to kill? Soldiers being pocketed by Mercy or Mercy?
Mercy.
Mercy, right? So
Yeah.
probably a better target to pick out would be Mercy first, because then we can kill Soldier afterwards, right? But now both of them on their own, like let's say they're both isolated, probably say that they're both like almost equally easy to kill. But when Soldier's in the middle of being pocketed, then Mercy therefore becomes the target, right? That
Right.
we want to be going for. Now Mercy leaves him, so now we can look at him, watch the health bar. So far, probably say awareness-wise, make sure we're paying attention to health bars of targets, of enemies, as we don't really seem to be paying attention to them too much. Like so here, for example, when we see that he's like 1 HP, right, and we're gonna finish him off, we leap after him anyways, and
Right.
then that just ends up wasting the leap. And then we also don't grab the health pack there as well. So just other tiny bits of awareness, or it's nothing major, but it's awareness still. Make sure that we're not continuing to Tesla when there's nothing there to shoot at. Here we just Tesla when we're Teslaing nothing. Might be a good time to reload, for example. I'd also recommend not trying to jump in when you're 90 HP.
Heal up. It's quiet. Je vais faire un cap.
Excuse me for dropping in.
Taking damage. Stay on target.
I'm on fire. Payload
Okay, good
in.
melee kill. Alright, so honestly, very solid attack, right? We capped to 3 minutes. We rolled pretty hard, therefore there weren't a ton of big major mistakes we made, but, you know, we have another
This will protect
bunch of
us.
minutes here, so we'll maybe see it be a little bit closer. Okay, so we bubble here, because Farah gets slept.
Now, in that situation, is it just better for me to kind of walk in front of her and
Yeah,
turn around to just body the damage rather than
yeah,
waste the cooldown?
I'd probably say that you would try to body the damage unless
Okay.
unless you feel that you need it. So you would body the damage, and then you'd only bubble if you feel like you need the bubble, right? Not
Okay.
Farah, because if you're bodying Farah, then she should be safe. But if you feel like they're melting you too fast, then that'd be kind of where you'd use the bubble as a second resort. Whereas
Okay.
here we kind of use it firstly, which means that it,
This will protect
Farah
us.
wakes up immediately, and then bubble just ends up getting largely wasted. So with bubbles so far, we've seen a bunch of our bubbles being wasted. Leaps though, leaps have been looking pretty solid in our leaping tech, though I would say they need particular work within our ults. Though outside of ults, they look very solid.
Okay.
Barrier activated.
Boosters engaged.
All right, so right now we're running. Okay, I'm just looking at our comp real quick. Yeah, so probably the biggest thing noting this fight that we are just kind of on the diva the entire fight, and that just means that we're not really accomplishing very much, right? We're, as a known, we're just kind of poking, but we could be doing this, same thing, maybe like coming up here and then looking at the Genji, for example, right? Or, if we wanted to, like, so we have Genji, where's the Ana? Okay, Ana's all the way in the back, right? So we're coming up here and like exclusively, like, so this fight we are like only shooting diva, and that's pretty much it. Like when Genji was up there pretty much the whole time, and then we go in McCree, miss it up, yeah. So probably say that was the big thing. They mess up our jump, we lose. All right. Might have wanted to go on some different characters. There was one of the big ones. Okay, do we have our whole team with us? Oh, we're down a player. Right, want to be a little bit careful on engagements here since we're down somebody. Oh, left a little far. Are you? I think I've seen you using question mark. Are you familiar with how to short jump?
Yeah, like that's just like looking down and then jumping forward, correct?
No. All right. So
Or
I was.
the S jump. Are you
Yes, the
talking
S
about
jump.
like if I jump?
Exactly.
Okay, yeah, okay, yeah.
Yep. So here, this would be probably a good situation for that. Like when they're within our max jump distance, right? Like this would be a perfect distance for a short jump, but we end up
Okay.
just normal jumping and then leaping straight past. So just identifying that situation where,
Right.
short jumping probably would have been much better. Okay. On top of that, probably again, target priority. Just kind of looking at like, okay, who's probably gonna be better to go for? Mercy, who's like running towards team, or Genji, who's running away by himself. I might be
Okay.
thinking, okay, well, Mercy's running in, Mercy's running away to where he, to cover and towards McCree, whereas Genji's kind of off on his own. Genji might be an easy target to go for here,
This will
but
protect us.
for some reason McCree's AFK there.
I need
Okay,
healing.
leaping away a little bit faster. Okay, wait, never mind. Actually, we didn't have leap because we leapt in. Okay.
I need healing.
Okay.
Rocket barrage incoming.
All right. Very nice.
Hello.
Yeah. Ball's pretty much the only one alive here, anyways. Diva's on the left, so though just taking a look at our environment there. Yeah. There, make sure we're just paying attention and looking to clean up the stagger kills, right? Because there, Diva gets a remech because we didn't know that she was demeched over on the side, which comes from watching kill feed, paying attention to our surroundings. We can hear her footsteps over there, but then also I'm pretty sure she was shooting gunshots over as well, right? So we can see, in a moment here, we can maybe see she's shooting at Hog, right, and farming him up. So here,
Right.
if we're paying attention to the fact that there's a Diva over on the left, we can look to go and finish her off, right? Instead of just letting her disengage and get away and remech, right? So just paying. Oh, and then sorry, Hog does get her, right? But still something to pay attention to. That's awareness.
Right.
What are you idiots doing out there?
Alright, we go for the like I think repositioning up to this high ground is completely fine, but we're repositioning as the fight's beginning,
Right.
right? Which is not the play. You don't want to be repositioning like as the fight's beginning because then that means they come in and then kill the Mercy for free while we're not in the fight and we're not participating. So make sure we're in the fight doing things.
This will protect us.
Okay. Make sure we're looking for cover there instead of just standing here on the open waiting for the McCree to high noon, right? So here, for example, we can like we don't. For example, here like McCree might be able to kill one of us here, like if he fully. Oh, that's the wrong McCree. McCree might actually be able to kill one of us here, but what ends up happening is that the hog gets around the corner, gets around the pillar here.
Mhm.
This might have been a situation where you might have wanted a primal to maybe stay alive if you thought you would die to the McCree, but we end up staying alive anyways. We get the kill. Looking to re-engage. Going in.
Powerful.
Okay, who's easier to kill, Genji or McCree?
McCree based on movement abilities,
Situation,
or
it's
right.
situational, right? Like if Genji doesn't have his stash,
Mhm.
then maybe Genji's easier to kill. But if McCree, if Genji does have dashing, he just dash away from you, then now McCree becomes much easier to kill because Genji can just dash away, right? So
Right.
here,
Feeling
we come in and we're
powerful.
on the Genji when maybe we want to be on the McCree instead.
Right.
Okay, watching and jumping the walls, right? Just paying attention to our jump, picking out Diva as our target. Though I think we're trying to boomer back into our team maybe there.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. Problem is when we're trying to do these boops, right? So here when we're trying to boop Ana, right? We're not jumping into Ana and then turning around. That's not how it works. You jump past Ana and turn around, right?
Right. Right. Right.
Because if we jump forwards, boop her, and then turn around, that doesn't accomplish anything. We jump past her, then we turn around and boop her. So here in this scenario, you just leap a little bit higher so we can get more, more height and more distance with it. And we stay in a little, maybe slightly too long there. Okay. Once again, fight's happening, and we're just kind of not paying attention to the fight, and we're not participating in said fight, right? Make sure that we're participating when the fight's happening, because there McCree might have needed like a bubble for his high noon, right? Like we had health like from this point onwards, right? And
Lost
we just
my
kind of
turn.
full back, and we, both teams are engaging and fighting here. Again,
Right.
they probably could have deflected and killed McCree pretty easily there if they wanted to. Um, but instead we just kind of sit in the back and we just kind of AFK here, so we can kind of like count out the time because this is like now the third time we've seen this, right? So we
Right.
can kind of count out the time and go, okay, well, how long did we just not participate? So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, bubble doesn't do anything because anybody over here is gonna be too far away from the bomb anyways. So bubble isn't needed there, right? 8, 9, 10. Okay, now 10 seconds, right? So we just kind of sat out of the fight for like 10 seconds straight, right? Making sure we're in the fight participating. By any chance there, do you think maybe we were thinking in our head, my team is too far forwards?
Um, there's probably a part of me that thought that, but in the moment, I honestly
Mhm.
don't know what I was thinking. I
Yeah.
just backed up and then didn't really register that we were still continuously engaging, right? With
Yeah.
their spawn right there. Normally, I'm not thinking of taking a fight there, but I should just be paying attention to what the team's actually
Yeah,
doing, right? Because
exactly, right.
if the team's taking a fight there, I have to like I have to be there,
Yeah,
right? So
exactly, right? That comes down to a, Jane quote where he says, if one person's doing something stupid, that's called feeding. If 6 people are doing something stupid, that's called a strategy, right? So if your whole
right,
team's up there fighting, you go fight with them, otherwise you're the one person sitting on the sideline being stupid, right?
right,
So here we probably want to be fighting, even if it's not an optimal place to be fighting. So we just want to make sure we're being aware of our surroundings, paying attention to where's the enemy team, where's our team, what's happening in the fight. That way we're not sitting out of the fight for 10 whole seconds.
right,
And then therefore that was our big impact on losing that fight is we had 0 impact, right? The entire
right.
fight.
This will protect us.
okay, Genji's like right next to you, and we're shooting at the ball, right? So paying attention to Genji, being aware of our surroundings, being aware of audio cues when it comes to audio cues. Turn up normal volume if needed, turn down music volume because that can clutter up sound and audio. Do you have surround sound options enabled on your headset or in game?
I believe so.
Hmm.
I can definitely double check
Yeah,
though.
I double check that because if you do not, probably a good idea to have them enabled. If your headset does not have that as an option, the game does have Dolby Atmos for headphones, which is an option in game that you can enable. This gives you just better surround sound, the sound that surrounds you, right? And then finally, it's just making sure we're listening for footsteps and gunshots and abilities and ultimates. And here on Monkey as well, right? Just could we rewind a couple seconds, right? And we're
This will
shooting
protect
at the
us.
ball, and we have Genji dash at us,
This will
dash to us
protect
here.
us.
Look, we can also see. Oh, where did it showed it to me before, but it didn't show what? Okay,
This will
that's a
protect
little
us.
wacky.
Off to our left,
Yeah,
eh?
so
Yeah.
yeah, he dashes to our left, so that's just audio cues. We see it on our screen for a flash. We see him on our left a little bit too in a moment. I thought we got some damage indicators, but I think Genji missed us with a dash.
It's time.
Alright, so once again, kind of not really on. So there we went on the Mercy, but the Mercy's just kind of able to fly away. So maybe going for like the Ana McCree might be better because they are going to be two people who are clumped up together, who we can Tesla both at once, and they're going to be, not able to just fly away very easily. So here, right, let's say like before this fight, like here when we're just sitting, like again, just kind of sitting here chilling. Right, this might be a perfect opportunity to maybe retake high ground, right?
Right.
Here, I guess maybe we can just shoot a diva a little bit, right? Maybe pressure her off the high ground. But then once diva leaves the high ground here in a moment, because she's gonna fly over, right? This might be a situation for us to leave up, take high ground, right? Now
Gotcha.
from high ground, we can just drop on top of Anna and McCree, right? What this does, right? This does multiple things for us, right? This means that now we have a leap to get away with, right? To get back to high ground, to get away to our team with. We are now contesting cart, and then therefore we're creating pressure. And we're also at the same time pressuring Anna and McCree, so contesting two different characters, potentially getting a kill on maybe like Anna, or like maybe Anna, probably say be the easier one to get a kill on, right? So we're doing a bunch of different things there, just creating a lot of space, right? Which is what Monkey's meant to do. Whereas you compare that to us leaping after the Mercy, right? We leap up to the high ground, then so here we leap after the Mercy, and we honestly, I think we don't even because we leap up here and we don't even leap up on the Mercy. So like kind of look at
Right.
where we're aiming with it. Mercy's on the right side. We jump up top left, right? And then we change targets halfway through. We go to Mercy halfway through. And the Mercy's just able to float away very
Barrier
easily, right?
activated.
So whereas if we, for example, had gone to cart, well now we have like 3 people we can Tesla, or 2 people we can Tesla, or whatever, right? Contesting cart all at the same time, being able to leap away. So we just probably more value out of that. We also, yeah, there we just kind of drop through that. Yeah, and then that's game right after that. Okay, so we saw for Sigma. Alright, so here we shoot a bunch of shots that just are out of range. So here we land that, we go for the shots, but we're just too far out of range, right? It's just, I think your orbs go 20 something meters, maybe 20, maybe I think something like that, 20 meters, and they're just a little bit outside of that range. So we want to be familiar with our range on our orbs because we fire those two, but then we also fire 2 more that are out of range, and two more that are out of range, and though I think those missed the ball, right? So we just fire a couple out of range shots there that we might have been better to maybe shoot at somebody who's within range or moving slightly closer into range.
Activating the barrier.
Alright, so they pretty much, yeah, they out-ulted us that fight.
Nerf this.
Heroes never die.
Yeah, probably good idea to swap the Diva for stall, but there's not a lot we can do at that point. Alright.
For your own safety, get behind.
Barrier is about to break.
Oops, I accidentally clicked it.
Observe the barrier.
Alright.
Barrier is about to break. My barrier is destroyed.
Yeah, very nice.
Holy addictive.
I'm on fire. I recommend moving behind my barrier.
Barrier. My barrier is destroyed.
Group up and find the behind the barrier. Taking damage.
Overloading.
60 seconds.
Barrier won't hold together.
For your safety, please move behind the barrier.
Make sure we're watching out for reses, because that's pretty easily contestable if we're paying attention for it, right? So this is, again, comes a little bit into awareness of team composition dictates play style. When your team is on a different team comp and their team is on a different team comp, you always play differently. So that is on a big team composition level, but then also just what individual characters do they have. So for example, when they don't have a Mercy, doesn't you don't have to pay attention at all to bodies, but when they have a Mercy, well, now we have every time we get a kill, we have to think in our heads, okay, we just got a kill, Mercy's looking for a res soon, right? And that means that if we can catch her off guard, she looks for the res, and then we are just sitting here around this corner, and we just turn, and she's standing there right in front of us, and we can just maybe rock her out of it and shoot her, and then boom, that not only stops her from resing, but also secures a kill. So now you've turned 2 people alive into 2 people dead, right? Just
Right.
from paying attention to the res, right? Whereas here we don't pay attention to the res, and then we let her get away with it, right? Whereas we probably could have contested that pretty easily.
Activating the barrier.
Okay, there we do have eat. We do have grasp to use. So when he's running into you there, I would be expecting him to use flash. So that'd be just a good opportunity to use your shift, and then that stops him from flashing you and Orisa.
Barrier no longer exists.
Alright.
Healer.
Objective lost. 10 seconds remaining.
So we get a pick. They may be looking for a res on it, but Tor pushes them back.
Observe the barrier.
Systems at max.
Heroes never die. Team special attack.
Okay, make sure we're not holding on to ultimate, right? Like, this is the last fight. If we win, we're hard engaging. We see our teams using every ultimate. We just use Bongo, Nano, Barrage, and Torbolt, Mercil. We just use 5 other ultimates. It's overtime. It's last fight. And here we are holding on to our ultimate, just remembering that ults that aren't used don't do anything. They don't get any value, right? So it's just better that we use it here, keep them off point, right? Secure the win, right? Alright, so we do, I think, end up getting it. Nope. Because, see, the problem is, right, when we stagger our ultimates, when we use it a couple seconds after our team just used their ultimates, well, now we're killing them slower, right? And when we kill them
Right.
slower, that means that they're getting staggered respawns. And now Genji is able to come back out and contest point right as we're, about to win the game, right? Just because we are if we had basically, had we ulted like a second faster, we could have won this game right here, right? Or at least won the
Right.
round right here, right?
Right.
So here, Genji touches. Grasping Genji blade doesn't do anything, right? On top of that, we lose track of him a little bit, just looking up in the air.
I'm sensing a pattern.
Okay, I'd probably say make sure you're working on your left clicks a little bit because we do end up missing a few of them, right? Just make sure we're practicing at aiming those. Once again, not really grasping anything in particular. Grasp
Right.
does stuff when people are actually shooting at you. So make sure we're grasping when people are shooting at us, not when they're not shooting at us. Because here we see 2 instances where people were not shooting at us. Tracer blinks to the side,
Barrier's about to
and
break.
she's no longer looking at us, right? And
Right.
we grasp. So making sure we're paying attention to our environment and grasping when people are actually shooting.
My
Because then that
barrier
not
is
only wastes an
destroyed.
ability, also wastes time while you're just standing there looking at people.
Activating the barrier.
The mysteries of the universe are open to you now.
Barrier is unstable.
No, there might have been a time to grasp when, oh, whoops. Right, here might have been a time to grasp when we are 100 HP and we have Tracer shooting at us, right? Now this might be a situation where you want it, or now 48 HP and we see Tracer looking at us, right? And
Right.
shooting. So, grasp might be a lot more useful in this situation here.
Barrier is unstable.
Double kill.
Alright. So, quite, very nearly cost that for our team.
Right.
No.
Ready.
Together, we can solve any problem.
Okay, now that's a much better bubble on the engagement because it's not just, a single ball who's not shooting at us, but it's like 3 different people who are up there. Good job pushing them off high ground, though. When did we get pushed off high ground or did we drop? Oh, I think we get booped by the Pharah. I might want to retake high ground when we get the chance here. I'd just be using this leap to get back up there. Yeah, which is what we do.
This will protect us.
Make sure we're shooting when there's people there, because we just kind of stare at them here.
This will protect us.
Alright, uh-oh, got a little bit too hard in there. So, why don't we talk about this, because we did go over this a bit earlier, but just, aggression scaling. We'll go over aggression scaling real quick. So, aggression scaling essentially is going over the fact that you have a scale, and it's a really, really easy way to kind of think in your head, how aggressive do I want to be, right? You just put yourself on
Mm.
the scale and think about the situation. So essentially, in every single fight, you're going to come into the fight at a 50% on the scale, and that's your neutral aggression that you're coming into. Now, when you get advantages and you get opportunities and you have resources, you can get more aggressive, and 100% is super aggressive. Now, when you have a lack of resources, a lack of opportunities, and disadvantages, this is where you scale downwards, and you are going to go down on the scale, down to very passive, which would be 0, right?
Right.
Now, what that looks like, right? We can kind of place ourselves on the
This
scale
will
here and
protect
go,
us.
okay. So in this situation, we're lacking bubble because we don't have bubble. We're maybe down some, we're lacking. We leap in, so now we're out of leap to disengage, right? And we're jumping straight into their backline here. So we're hard engaging here right now. Our aggression is probably like a 90% right now, somewhere around that, where we're like very hard engaging, but we don't have resources. We also just lost 2 of our teammates and don't have any teammates to follow up on us. So as of the moment, we're basically 1v3 4ing, right? So this is not a situation where we can be going 90% on our aggression. So
Right.
therefore, we don't want to be at 90%, right? So here, this is what you would call a hard dive. We're going in hard with the intent to kill when we can't, right? When we don't have resources, we don't have teammates, we don't, so it might have been much better here, for example, to maybe go for a soft dive and possibly we could have, you know, here in this situation, what if we had left to their high ground behind them and then shot at soldier, right? Well, now
Right.
we have high ground as cover that we can use in positioning, and we're not inside of 4 people. We're now, you know, we get the kill on soldier, and then we also have cover we can use, right? So that might have been a lot better of an idea in terms of like positioning to go, right?
Further.
60 seconds remaining.
Probably gonna look to go and contest the ball here. Okay, contest the high ground. All right. So once again, just we're coming into the fight, and the fight's, you know, kind of happening. We're in the poke phase. We're just kind of chilling around, not really doing anything in particular. So right now we're kind of at like a 20% when we should be up at 50% when we should be doing things, or I guess even lower. We're like 20% ish, right? When we should be 50%, we should be doing things here because it's neutral, right? So here, if we go up top, we can help our Echo, we can and our Diva, we can contest ball and the Diva, and also take high ground control for our team. But we're just kind of chilling, and then that lets our, you know, that lets our Echo die here, and then we finally, nope, we're still chilling. Okay, so there, you know, that entire time we just kind of didn't do anything, right? So that gets in the actions per minute once again, where now that's another like 10 seconds that we just did absolutely nothing, right? Probably jump up and like just push far off high ground there.
You're powered up. Get in there.
Alright, so we're going in the back. Very nice.
You're powered up.
Here,
Get
do you
in
know
there.
that gonna run away from you?
Not even angry.
Once again, bubble doesn't really do anything in particular because you just immediately walk out. Everybody walks out of it immediately, right? Whereas, let's say maybe we use it like nowish. Well, now people are actually like yeah, they're kind of sitting in place. Like, I don't know, just essentially, right? Think of the times in which bubble is actually needed, right? Bubble is needed to protect you, to protect teammates, to cut off teammates from their team, or sorry, enemy team, right? To cut off enemy teammates from their team, to cut them off from healing, right? And we just kind of go through those check boxes and think, okay, well, is this actually needed, right? Do we need it? No, we're nanoed and we have, you know, no one shooting at us, right? Well, are we cutting them off from anything? No, not really up there. No, we weren't. So that bubble just ends up being left in the dust and not doing anything, right? So we want to make sure we're using it.
I've reached the objective. Let's
Once
coordinate.
again, make sure bubble's doing stuff, right? Not just plopping it down on the ground, right? Because no one needs it there, and then by the time it's, you know, doing anything, it just ends up, you know, it doesn't do anything at all, right?
Objective A captured. Objective A captured. Escort the payload.
Let's keep it moving.
All right, let's go back a little bit to back here, right back here. Okay, so we end up killing them all, right? We come back to this spot. Trying to think if it's worth pushing back. They're gonna get their teammates back at some point here. No, I think it's fine to just push these guys back on point. I guess it'd be a risky play to try to go for BAP, so we're good.
Objective A captured.
There was a part of me that thought to push that and engage that, but when I turned that corner and didn't see him, I figured dive, and I didn't realize what his cooldowns would have been at within Mega as well. But
Okay, so
I don't know if it would've been
Far
worth it.
comes in.
Destination.
I think we think she has Barrage, possibly, because we bubble immediately here when she boosts in. Though she does not have Barrage, which
Right.
comes down to awareness of the last fight, which we were very far you know, out of the last fight. Did they have a Pharah? Have they had a Pharah from the beginning? Yeah, they did. Okay, but they used it in this fight. Did we see Pharah Barrage happen? I can't recall. They used Brush. I think they used Brush. Okay.
Yeah, no,
So
I'm
the only way
super
we
new.
would have, the only way we would have heard, like, had awareness of that is if we had audio awareness, right? If we
Right.
listened to it, which is possible. We also see it happen in kill feed. So there's 2 different sources in which we could have seen that they use barrage, so that's paying
Right.
attention to it, right? So that we know that they don't have barrage there. Right now, on top of that, we come into this fight. The Pharah boosts in the point.
Yeah,
Okay,
bubble
let's
gets
see.
wasted based on awareness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
bubble gets wasted, and then we also end up again not really focusing right targets there. Okay, so we're trying to just contest the point there. Yeah. They had a lot more ultimates there to come back in with. Yeah. Okay. So let's exit out here. So we're gonna go over the main points now. Go over, do a quick review along with that, and then wrap up the session from there. So let's start off with ability usage. So ability usage, monkey. Make sure with our leap that we're understanding kind of when to go further, when to do shorter jumps, when to do what, right? Particularly practice in primal. Make sure we're not that we're leaping more in primal. That we're not leaping into objects and walls. It's just very here and there things. Make sure we're just getting better with it. And then bubbles. We wasted bubbles a ton. Or in fact, they didn't often do very much. So with bubbles, right? You need bubbles when you are low, when teammates are low, when you're blocking abilities and ultimates, when you're cutting people off on the enemy team from heals or their teammates, right? And you can also use it like when you're engaging on top of them. But we don't need bubble when none of those are applicable, right? And we ended up
Right.
doing that a lot, where we just kind of walk into a fight and just go boop, bubble,
Very
right?
hot.
And then it just wouldn't do very much, right? So we want to make sure we're looking to get more value out of our bubbles. And then over on Sigma, make sure we're grasping when grasp is actually needed, right? When people are actually shooting at us, and we used it twice when it wasn't needed, and then once when we could have used it when maybe it was needed. Rock, just make sure we're looking to land it. Shield, we did pretty decent with. So overall, probably say all of abilities as a whole goes probably to like a medium priority for you to work on. Over to ultimates. With
Imagination
primal,
is
make sure that we
essence of
are
destruction.
just looking to get better with mechanics of it particularly. Then we're also just kind of the targets, but we'll get to that in a minute, right? But make sure we're just looking to get better with mechanics of our jumps, like making sure we're jumping behind people, booping back, and not in front of them, and making sure we're just getting better with the jumps in particular. I'd say is the big thing within our primal, is just making sure we're getting better at that. When you have someone pinned to a corner, just jump more often, and that's pretty much it with primal. But then over on Sigma Flux, just make sure, in general, don't hold on to ultimates, right? Just because that almost led to us losing that round, just because we didn't use Flux fast enough. So make sure we're not holding on to it, but we're using it when the situation calls for it.
Right.
And then overall, I'd probably say not very high priority, just a low to medium priority. Right, now
Pardon
moving
me.
on to mechanics. Within mechanics, Monkey doesn't have mechanics in general, but then Sigma, right, make sure that we're just looking to hit more shots, right? We just end up missing a lot of those, so put practice into those. Besides that, the big one within this, two big ones within this category are target priority and actions per minute. So target priority is pick out the best things to shoot at, right? Look at their team composition and go, who should we be
Imagination
shooting
is
at
the
on their
essence
team?
of
Come up with a
discovery.
list pretty much every single round. You should be doing that in your head so that you're able to identify what you should be shooting at and when. Look to purposefully target them out. Don't go for tanks. Don't go for the hard things to kill. Actively seek out the easy things to kill, right? And go for their backline. Now, besides that, it's not to say that you never shoot at the hard things to kill, right? You shoot at them when you
Right.
have the opportunity to do so, right? And then that led to us not really doing a ton in a lot of situations, right? We just kind of chased the tanks around and never really accomplished very much, right? Where we wouldn't get kills, we wouldn't really secure any space. We just kind of sit there farming tanks and then never getting anything done, right? So that was a big one, right? Other big one is actions per minute, where we just kind of sit around a lot of the time, right? Actions per minute is just making sure we're doing more things with our time, being efficient. Whereas like we'd kind of have these random pauses where we'd be in a fight and then all of a sudden take a 5 or 10 second break, and that happened regularly over the course of the game. Where overall in the entire game we probably spent, in the middle of fights, probably spent like a minute and a half just like sitting there, right? So make sure we're not doing that, and we lost a couple fights just because of that, right? So make sure we're participating, right, in those fights and doing things. And then overall, probably say all of that adds up to like a medium high priority, right? Moving on to positioning. Positioning, we actually didn't talk like a ton on. A couple tiny things to just make sure we're taking high grounds, right? Contesting people off of high grounds, or a couple times like where we wouldn't contest, or we wouldn't jump up there. From high grounds, you're able to just drop down on top of people, right? Very easily, and that way you have jump to
Pardon me.
escape with. So make sure we're doing that. And besides that, I think that is pretty much it. There were a couple times where we out in the open, so just keep in mind good positioning is the usage of cover, whereas bad positioning is the absence of cover. But overall, positioning was pretty fine, so I think positioning goes probably to like a low priority. And then finally we have awareness/aggression, which is making sure we're paying attention to our surroundings and adjusting our aggression accordingly, right? So awareness comes, paying attention to where is your team at, right? Where they are, so that we're not just backing out of the fight when they're forwards. Making sure we're paying attention to where the enemy team is, so we know where they are and not, the Genji's not jumping around right next to us and we don't see them, right? Paying attention to our audio cues. So again, like, we know when people are behind us or to the side of us, right? Where we didn't really pay attention to those things.
Only physics.
Pay attention to the flow of the fight and if it's happening and who's winning and who's losing, right? Pay attention to ultimates, so we know, like, did they use this ultimate or did they not use this ultimate? Pay attention to team compositions and how team compositions dictate your playstyle, so we're not letting Mercy get away with a res for free, right? On the aggression side of things, right? Make sure that we are paying attention to how we scale our aggression, right? As we get resources, opportunities, and as we have what was the last one? Advantages, right? We get more aggressive, right? We're up kills, we go in more. We're down kills, we go less, right? We can play more passive. We have less kills. You start off at a 50% neutral. Adjust up with all those positive things. Adjust down when you have the negatives, right? And then overall, probably say that goes to like a medium high as well. And then real quick, let's just put that all in a priority list. So I'd probably say number 1 comes out to the awareness/aggression. Number 2 comes to the mechanics. Number 3 comes to probably your ability usage. 4 is your ultimate usage, and then 5 is your positioning, right? Any questions about anything that we talked about, or just anything else in general?
No, I think it's a good amount of stuff to work on, and I'll definitely be able to take it away and actually apply it.
Yeah, sounds good, Nans.